9:47 a.m. local time. The AN Spy-1D-V radar console inside the USS Jason Dunham didn't just flash, it violently exploded into a searing bioluminescent amber, signifying a condition beyond mere alert. This was the signal of imminent kinetic action. Inside the hardened Combat Information Center, every non-essential light extinguished, leaving only the eerie focused blue glow of the massive consoles and the brutal pulsing red light of the master threat panel. The Venezuelan Sukhoi Su-30MK2 Flanker, which had been patiently circling like a territorial shark for over an hour, finally transcended provocation and fired. The Aegis combat system, a technological behemoth with the processing power of an entire financial district, instantly isolated and focused all its digital resources onto a single terrifying vector. A chilling synthesized voice, cold and absolute, cut through the professional calm, announcing the worst-case scenario.
Weapon separation. Missile launch detected. Target acquisition confirmed.
The notorious KH-31A Krypton anti-ship missile had detached its solid rocket boosters, initiating the continuous burn of the ramjet engine in a blinding blue-white plume of controlled hellfire, immediately driving the projectile down to a terrifyingly low sea-skimming profile. Its acceleration was brutal and sustained Mach 2.8 in climbing. Its terminal velocity would exceed 1,000 meters per second, faster than any man-made weapon the Jason Dunham had faced in decades. The internal clock, the one that decided the fate of 300 sailors, and a $2 billion asset showed a shattering limit: 87 seconds until a one-ton package of superheated metal and high explosives vaporized a portion of the destroyer's hull. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Phoenix Chen, the tactical action officer, her voice a low, disciplined whisper over the tactical net, issued the irreversible command,
Time to react is down to 30 seconds. We get one chance to neutralize this threat. Execute Salvo Intercept Alpha Bravo, now.
A fraction of a second later, the deck shuddered violently, the sound like a monstrous compressed sigh as the covers of the Mark 41 vertical launch system popped open, venting white-hot exhaust, prepping the only defense system capable of stopping this hypervelocity threat. This was the biggest, most reckless gamble the Venezuelan regime had ever taken. This encounter was no mere diplomatic incident. It was a high-stakes kinetic argument being waged over the economic bedrock of global commerce. The U.S. Navy's destroyer was not simply patrolling. It was enforcing the principle of freedom of navigation, the very international law that guarantees the safe transit of $3.4 trillion in annual global trade. The Caribbean Sea is not just water. It is the vital conduit for energy and finished goods that sustain the American economy. The Jason Dunham's mission directly impacts the price stability and availability of everything from the latest Apple iPhones assembled in Asia and the Ford F-150s being shipped out of U.S. ports to the Colombian coffee consumers rely on every morning. The target was not just the warship, it was the entire global supply chain that enables the American lifestyle. For the Maduro regime, isolated and sustained only by Russian military contracts and Chinese economic lifelines, this confrontation was a desperate asymmetric power play. Their goal was not necessarily to sink the ship, but to inflict a significant high-visibility kinetic strike to achieve a propaganda victory. Such a blow would signal to Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran that U.S. technological deterrence was brittle like antique porcelain and ripe for challenge. The confrontation boiled down to a single question. Could a Russian-supplied Mach 3 missile exploit a theoretical vulnerability in the Aegis combat system, the digital firewall protecting every U.S. interest, or would U.S. technological and doctrinal superiority prevail? The answer would define the strategic rules for the entire Western Hemisphere for the next decade. The antagonist was the Venezuelan Air Force's most capable platform, the Su-30MK2 Flanker, crewed by a pilot operating on the Russian-based doctrine of speed and shock. Their entire strategy hinged on exploiting one single terrifying asset, the sustained velocity of the KH-31A Krypton. The Su-30 utilized its N001VE radar to gain a stable lock on the Jason Dunham from over 100 nautical miles away, attempting to execute a maximum-range surprise attack. But the core threat was the missile's unique propulsion, the ramjet engine. This engine turns the KH-31A into a continuous high-speed projectile capable of sustaining Mach 2.4 at sea level and hitting speeds up to Mach 3.3 in high-altitude cruise. To illustrate its raw speed, the KH-31A travels so fast that it could traverse the distance of a standard marathon 26.2 miles in just 45 seconds. This speed was specifically engineered to induce human and technical paralysis, reducing the Jason Dunham's time to react to a vanishingly small window. The pilot's desperate strategy was the shoot-and-scoot tactic, relying on the missile's low, sea-skimming altitude and supersonic signature to overwhelm the ship's defenses before they could fully cycle. Their fatal miscalculation was not in the missile's speed, but in their assumption of the destroyer's isolation. They planned a race against the ship's radar. They were actually racing against the instantaneous data transfer rate of the entire U.S. military network, a race they were guaranteed to lose. The U.S. counter-strategy was already in its terminal phase, initiated hours before the Venezuelan pilot even armed his weapon. The process began with constant high-fidelity tracking from a distant P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, which used its AN/APY-10 radar and AN/ALQ-210 ESM electronic support measure system to precisely map the flanker's every electronic fingerprint and maneuver. This crucial kill chain analysis data was instantly fused and relayed to the Jason Dunham via the secure lightning-fast Link 16 data link and the revolutionary cooperative engagement capability. CEC is the ultimate game-changer. It allowed the Jason Dunham to fire its weapon based on the targeting data provided by the P-8, effectively allowing the destroyer to see 500 miles beyond its own physical radar horizon. The U.S. Navy calls this the system of systems, a network that operates at the speed of light. The core processor of the Aegis system, with its computational power estimated to be 50 times greater than the systems that guided the entire Apollo program, had calculated dozens of firing solutions long before the launch. This computational superiority allowed the Jason Dunham to reduce its crucial decision-making time, the time between threat detection and weapon release, to approximately 400 milliseconds faster than the duration of an average human eye blink, while the adversary was still physically manipulating controls. The physical defense relied on the SM-2 Block WEA Standard missile, a Mach 3.5 plus interceptor launched from the ship's 96-cell Mark 41 VLS. The SM-2 was equipped with a sophisticated blast fragmentation warhead, designed not for a simple explosion, but to create a dense, lethal cloud of pre-fragmented tungsten shrapnel guaranteed to shred the airframe of any supersonic target it encountered. 9:47:36. The kinetic phase began. The KH-31A, now designated Track Sierra 7, maintained its brutal sea-skimming altitude, a low-flying supersonic ghost. Lieutenant CMDR Serchen's order for a two-salvo defense, Alpha Psi Bravo, reflected the U.S. Navy's doctrine of ensuring the kill through disciplined redundancy. They were not aiming to shoot down the missile, they were aiming to guarantee its destruction. 47:37. The first pair of SM-2 Block 3A missiles, Salvo Alpha, ignited. They launched vertically from the VLS cells, executed the signature Aegis pitchover maneuver, and rapidly accelerated past Mach 3, their thunderous roar momentarily overwhelming the persistent alarms in the CIC. The Venezuelan pilot, observing the launch trails, doubled down on his desperate escape vector, believing the speed and low profile of the KH-31A would succeed. He continued to misjudge that he was fighting a single ship, not an integrated electronic network. The target was still 75 kilometers away. Salvo Bravo, or the second pair of SM-2s, was launched. This was the final non-negotiable insurance policy. Simultaneously, the destroyer's AN/SPG-62 illuminators began painting the incoming Mach 2.8 target with the precise X-band radar energy needed for the SM-2's terminal guidance system. 9:48:15. The moment of impact was a blur of physics. The lead SM-2 from Salvo Alpha closed the gap. Its radar seeker locked on, and at the optimal point of intercept a few meters short of impact, the proximity fuse detonated the 140-pound warhead. This was not a blunt explosion. It was the violent unleashing of a dense cloud of superheated tungsten fragments traveling at over 5,000 feet per second. The shrapnel instantly pierced the KH-31A's titanium ramjet casing, igniting the remaining fuel and causing the missile to violently disintegrate. The second SM-2, following milliseconds behind, passed directly through the resulting fireball and debris cloud, confirming the target's total obliteration. 9:48:21. Splash Track Sierra 7 is destroyed. The tension inside the CIC shattered, replaced by an almost unnerving silence. The entire kinetic engagement from weapon separation to confirmed destruction took a blistering 48 seconds less time than it takes an American consumer to queue up a new song on their Spotify playlist. The aftermath was defined by controlled, cold professionalism. The Venezuelan pilot, observing the immediate loss of his radar track, understood his failure. He had not only missed, but had also surrendered invaluable intelligence to his adversary, the precise electronic warfare response and firing sequence of the U.S. Navy. The U.S. Navy won decisively. The financial cost of the engagement was quantifiable: 4 SM-2 missiles totaling roughly $8 million. The strategic gain, however, was incalculable neutralization of a $4.5 million hostile missile protection of a $2 billion warship and the rock-solid reaffirmation of U.S. technological superiority. The pilot of a circling FA-18E Super Hornet was immediately diverted to the area, activating its FLR forward-looking infrared camera to gather thermal data and high-resolution imaging of the KH-31A debris. This data, including the precise thermal signature of the ramjet's failure, would be used to program future U.S. electronic countermeasures and missile seekers, turning a tactical failure for Venezuela into an intelligence goldmine for the U.S. Captain Riley's final measured message to Caracas was broadcast on the open tactical frequency. "This is the USS Jason Dunham. We successfully defended ourselves in international waters. We are maintaining course and speed. Be advised, further aggressive action will be met with overwhelming decisive force." The Venezuelan flanker retreated south, its electronic signature shrinking rapidly on the Jason Dunham scope, confirming that the era of safe and cost-free provocations against the U.S. Navy was irrevocably over. The most profound lesson from the Caribbean was not about the raw speed of a Mach 3 missile. It was about the speed of information and the unassailable advantage of the networked mind. The Venezuelan pilot gambled on the destructive power of his Russian-made hardware. The U.S. Navy relied on the superior architecture of its doctrine and software. The terrifying speed of the KH-31A was rendered irrelevant because the data fusion from the P-8 Poseidon, the Link 16 network, and the Aegis system was faster than any human perception and faster than any available threat. This victory wasn't merely a tactical success, it was a strategic declaration of technological dominance. It proved that the U.S. Navy system operates faster than any human can react and faster than any threat can arrive. This episode serves as a chilling, definitive warning to every nation considering anti-access/area denial A2AD strategies against U.S. power. When you challenge an adversary who controls the Cooperative Engagement Capability (CEC), your tactical surprise becomes the centerpiece of an intelligence debriefing before your weapon even hits the water. Your military hardware, no matter how fast or powerful, is only as effective as the network supporting it. The USS Jason Dunham did not just save itself, it sent an $8 million receipt to the world for the cost of challenging American naval power, reaffirming the enduring truth that the global commons and the rules governing them will always belong to those who master technology discipline and the will to use both with surgical precision. Let us know in the comments. What is the most significant tactical mistake the Venezuelan pilot made? Thank you, and see you in the next video.